Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you back to the next episode of the Life Success Legacy Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been teasing this podcast for a year at least, I think, and it's finally going to happen. I'm super excited to introduce to you guys Winnie Lau and Emaghea Lau. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Pretty fantastic.
Good,
Awesome.
good. Excellent. So let me give some context for our listeners why I'm so excited about this. This is going to be the first, maybe we'll do more, right? We may not get everything done in this first podcast that I want to, but we have so many clients that ask us about how to educate their kids about financial literacy, right? And I don't know anyone better to ask about that than you two because of your own personal experience, and then also the book and program that you all have been working very hard together on over the years, okay? So that's what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be a resource for our listeners to be able to tap into that. But before we go down that road, would you guys tell us a little bit, just introduce yourselves and who you are as a dynamic duo, your relationship with each other. You guys live in Canada, and can you give a little geography tour to where you are in Canada to give context to our listeners?
Sure. The flat, ugly part.
The flat, ugly part of Canada. So if
I would disagree Oh my God. highly. I Please highly Sorry. disagree with her description of where we are. We are in Alberta, the province of Alberta, which is just right above the state of Montana.
So if I follow the Rocky Mountains up from Colorado and I go up into Canada, you are just to the east of that range, correct?
That's correct. And we are in the area of the capital city of Alberta, which is Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't say, this is maybe where she describes it as ugly compared to the places that this girl has already lived, which is in some pretty dreamy places. Edmonton, Alberta, it's definitely a old school blue collar oil and gas city, but it has amazing river valleys that are, we have one of the largest North American circuits for biking. So it's not all ugly. Making the best out of every situation. Anyways, we're mother-daughter. I'm her mom. You can guess.
And if people didn't pick up on that interaction right away as you guys were interacting with each other, that's hilarious. Okay. So from my perspective, just a little bit of context of our relationship. Winnie and I met over a decade ago now, I believe it is, at my very first Nelson Nash Institute think tank. And there was this large group of Canadians down in the front row, all wearing hockey. What do you call them? We call them jerseys. Jerseys.
Yeah. What do you call them? Yeah.
Jerseys. I thought you had some kind of fancy Canadian name for them. So, and then what would happen is everybody would connect, and then in the evenings, you go out and have dinner and talk and so forth. And one of the things that I learned about Winnie, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you are the first female Nelson Nash Institute practitioner, right?
Yes.
From Canada?
Yes. From
or
Canada.
Overall, from Canada. That's quite the blue ribbon that you can put there. That's pretty amazing to have that historical significance.
And I'm so glad that since then there's just like many more women stepping up to the plate in Canada and in the States to share the IBC message.
Yeah. So again, to our listeners, this, for me, it's about being focused today, because I want to go all over the map with these two. I do want to give people a little bit of sense. Obviously, you guys are in Canada, and Winnie, you do IBC, all these things. You've worked together on this project, and something that I think is really cool is the two of you just got back from a mother-daughter trip across the big pond. Can you just tell people real quickly a little bit about what that was like? Imagine, maybe you want to chime in. You guys went to this university learning event.
We did, yeah.
What was that?
My mom let me know about this event called Mind Valley University. And so what's really interesting is I never went to post-secondary, and my mom never went to post-secondary, and we just ended up kind of going together. So it's essentially a 3-week course. We only went for 1 week. That was already transformational as is. Definitely want to go for longer, but you get to choose your different classes every single day, whether it's self-development, business development, or spirituality aspects, but it's the people there that I think make it like extraordinary, beyond extraordinary. And I think it was an awesome opportunity for me and my mom to connect with younger and older people, lots of networking, but we were mainly there to focus on Cash Smart for Life. So we learned a lot of new tricks to put up our sleeve.
Excellent. And Winnie, for you, any takeaways or highlights from your trip?
Yes. I mean, so much, like, part of it was definitely being able to go to like this alternate kind of university together. Like, I never would have imagined, my daughter and I going to so-called university together. And but just the fact that I through the power of like not just IBC, but just like our connection, using money to connect, like just our bond, and being able to solidify our bond through this mother-daughter trip. Being able to, go to places like Croatia, but Mind Valley University, but just visiting Europe, somewhere which is completely different from where we grew up, to expand our perspective. And that was like one of the main highlights, not just to get connected in the way that we, we've never spent this much time together, I don't think. Not as like, an adult, like, not this. As an adult, not this. Right. The other thing that I really wanted to do was just make sure that our program, I know what it's like, we both know what it's like to handle money in North America, but we don't necessarily know the cultural differences across the way, like you say, across the pond. Like, how do like, I wanted to choose Mind Valley University because I wanted to make sure that I stayed empathetic towards all people, because Canada and most even the States, we are kind of a melting pot. We do attract people from all around the world, right? Although we grew up in North America, it doesn't mean that we necessarily understand everyone's culture. And it was just nice to be exposed to people who speak English as a second language, get their idea of like how they see money, how they grew up with money, and just make sure that we're still on par, and in terms of how we come across, that we're really taking into consideration everybody. Because we are a global community, right?
Yeah, and I also want to point out that every single friend that I made who was around my age, and we did interview them a little bit, every single one of them brought up the fact that they basically learned all their money habits from their parents. And so that was
bad, right?
Good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of that was just like, yeah, I totally understand that.
What a great experience for the two of you to have together. And I'm reminded, Nelson talks about the cost of, college education in his book. And, he talks about how people can get educated in all kinds of formats. It does not have to be at a formal traditional university. So I think it's so amazing how you guys have searched this out. You have combined so many different elements to this, your time together, which that bond, I can't imagine what this trip will do for you guys in your relationship, but then also all the international connections, the opening of your mind to how other people live in the world. What amazing education. Great value. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I do have to
Go ahead.
can I share a quick side note and then come right back
Absolutely.
to stay
Absolutely.
focused. Even the dogs are different there.
In what way?
Not as friendly.
They're not as
She's like
friendly.
that.
She's
Oh,
like it was so strange. I never would have picked up on that before, but it's like just specific. I guess I can only speak for Croatia and Tallinn, Estonia.
mhm.
The pets there, they could care less if you existed. It's like if you try to come up and pet them, no, they just walk past you like they never saw you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've experienced that in some of my travels as well. Yeah, very much so. Okay, so let's dig into Cash Smart for Life. What was the impetus? What was the spark? What was it that got you even thinking about this might be something the two of you wanted to work on together?
Okay, so you were at the tipping point, Chris, back in February of 2020 at the think tank. The
Okay.
last, no, was it? Yeah, it was the last think tank before COVID hit.
Mhm.
I was just saying this is something that I want for my clients, and then you said, well, this is something that this everyone can really use. And I mean, I already had it in the back burner of my mind already, but then COVID hit, and then Emaghea was out of work because she was in the service industry, and thank goodness she had good friends and a place to go to. But at that time it was like I was more or less wondering, okay, how are you financially now that you're not working? And it proved that she was still actually in an okay spot because she had savings. Like she had a built up amount of capital to help her sustain. I mean, at that time we didn't really necessarily know how long COVID was going to last for. So, but she was fine, right? So it wasn't like
Which,
she was
Emaghea, you were what, 20?
I was 20. I would have been 21, I think.
Mhm.
And the statement that you made, Winnie, of all this happening and her income may be dropping and that she's okay, that's unheard of for someone that age, because the margin for kids that age, for people, humans that age, so
Right.
small.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the age of my two kids, right? And I
Mhm.
think about if my oldest lost her income or even decreased it a little bit, she would be sunk,
Mhm.
right?
I think I also want to point out the fact that growing up with understanding how to manage my money also gave me the capacity to always think about how to make more money. So when something like this hits, it's not like freaking out in the sense of like, okay, I've lost all my income. It's more like my brain automatically goes to, okay, so what are the other ways I can make income?
Mhm.
It's just like a different mentality with that kind of switch that you raised me with. So.
Yeah. And so it was interesting because I was wanting to start putting together a program. I wasn't actually thinking at first to bring Emaghea into the fold, but when COVID hit and I knew she was sitting there idly, and I also needed some help just sort of keeping up with making posts for social media and all that sort of stuff, and some editing of certain videos. I helped to keep her busy doing that, and I thought, you know what, this is interesting now that she's been out on her own for a few years, and she's able to stand on her own 2 feet, and she still has not ever asked me for like a dime, except for maybe like, oh, can you do 50% of this birthday present that I really want, or something
Right,
like that.
right.
That's different. And of course I said yes. And so yeah, I mean, that's where it came to be. It's like, instead of attempting to do this program on my own and teach parents on my own, why not include her? Because she's the living testimony.
Mhm.
She's the living testimony that this is what it could potentially look like for you. Like, just if you spent any amount of time or had any conversation with my daughter, it's like, okay, she's not post-secondary making 5, 6, 7-figure income at this point, but just check out how she stands in the world, right? And it makes me proud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes me proud. I'm not even family and I'm proud. I had nothing to do with it. Oh, so imagine, do you remember when Winnie kind of approached you about this idea and your reaction?
I do. Yeah. I remember just thinking, well, I don't even know how I never even thought of it before. Um, but it was something that she offered, and I was like, okay, like let's start doing it. I didn't even know that it would obviously be as much work as it is now. Like clearly 21, I'm like, oh yeah, you can just whip up videos, we'll just sell it.
Pre-chat GBT.
Yeah, pre-chat GPT. Like
Yeah.
I just thought it would kind of be like a thing maybe I'd work on for a year and just start making like bank. But that's just honestly the hard work of it has just been amazing, and it honestly keeps developing into something even more like special every time. And I think my mom's image of what cash Smart for Life can do for families in the sense of actually creating generational wealth and making it so every single family from here on out actually can understand how money works and to look at it completely different. I didn't think it was that big of a message. I thought it was just like teaching people how I manage my money. But in the actual scheme of the whole message, it's so much bigger and so much more beautiful than I thought it was gonna be. So
Yeah, it is like, I want people to know that money can actually bring family closer together if you let it.
because that's also the big reason why we stayed in communication so much when I moved out at 18, right? It's been great.
Yes, we want to just slay the whole thought process that money can tear families apart out of the whole equation. It's like, okay, let's take away that definition and create a new one.
You say slay?
Slay it. Is that too young a term for me? What do you say?
I don't even use that, but that's great. I'm glad that you're
Way to go, Winnie. Okay, so you guys come to a place where you look back on, imagine your experience growing up, which is kind of interesting because it's your experience, so you don't know anything different other than comparing where you are today to your friends. And what I'd like to real quickly is talk about that specific thing, is how you see your experience and your relationship and mindset with money compared to what you observe with your peers. And then I'd like to get into actually the meat and potatoes of, okay, what is Cash Smart for Life? Is it a book? Is it a program? How do I access it? What will I learn? Those kinds of things. Okay. So imagine as you're talking about that, Winnie can be thinking about the logistics of, okay, here's the stuff that people need. So imagine how do you compare your experience to peers?
So I think, so just starting back maybe at 18, moving out for the first time, that transition for me, 2 weeks after I turned 18, I moved away from home, I believe 3 or 4 hours, and I wanted to experience life on my own and see what that was like. Right off the bat, I had a car, I had insurance, I had bills, groceries, everything was thrown at me. And I was totally fine. Like it was actually a very smooth process for me. And all my roommates and staff at home were actually quite a bit older than me.
But how much?
I think my best friend, my roommate, she was almost 30, she was 28. And everyone around me that I worked with was around their late 20s, maybe mid 20s. And they were all struggling with money a little bit, for sure. I mean, there's lots of different money personalities, so they're all struggling in their different way. But that was the biggest transition that I saw with understanding how to manage my money and then actually bringing it to the real world of completely supporting yourself. And it was actually a very easy transition. And then kind of going more into my 20s when I've moved around a lot, and moving is very expensive, and I've been moving to many different places, many different environments, and I was still doing totally fine. I would say the biggest thing that's affected me compared to my friends that I don't think was the most positive thing is their outlook on life and the things that they can accomplish or the things that they feel capable of is was honestly quite negative. Whereas I think naturally growing up understanding how to manage my money will naturally already make you quite an optimistic person growing up, with the ability to feel like you can, if you understand how money works and how to use the tool, then you can pretty much do whatever you want, right? Feel like
Yeah.
the sky is not the limit. And I think that especially coming into more of my mid-20s now and being around people who have supported themselves a couple years now on their own, are still struggling very much and complaining a lot, which I actually find kind of hard to be around now.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is just the mentality of that definitely separates me from my peers at the moment.
It sounds like over your lifetime, you learned kind of the competence of managing your money and financial literacy, which then built the confidence, right? Which then fed into almost like an abundance mindset of, well, I can, like you said earlier, like if I lost my job, I know I can create income in other ways. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not limited. I can go do this. I'm not limited to stay in a specific place where my income is. I can move someplace else and I can create income living in another location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I realized when Cash Smart for Life was evolving, when my mom first taught it to me. It's not just about teaching your kids how to manage their money. It's actually about completely raising your children to actually be confident, capable, independent people, which is something that I think I didn't even notice that I had until I really was in my mid-20s, and it was like, no, I actually am like a fairly confident thinking person. And so I think that was like the bigger message that just like hit on me the more years we are doing this.
So this is something that you guys kind of created together. Winnie obviously is the mom. You were a key piece in this, but Emaghea, you also in some way had to participate, right? So as you bring us to the book, the program that people could tap into, what is it? What is Cash Smart for Life?
So the book actually is I feel like I keep saying this, but honestly, it's just that this last little piece, it's almost ready for print and available. It's just like for some reason the graphics don't line up with the specs of
Sure.
anyways, it's a technical thing. So it's so close to being done. The book comes with the program as well, and it will be available to the public as well. But the program in and of itself can never replace the book. I mean, there's lots of books that are out there. People can read it, but you know, kind of like the hierarchy of like the cone of learning, when you really spend some time and you're doing it with a group of people, the way that you implement it and integrate it into your life are so much greater than if you just read something by yourself on your own. Because the percentage of people who are actually really like serious do-it-yourselfers are very small. So the program is designed so that you can be coached by both her and I. It's eight specific modules that will uncover, you know, mindset, get you prepared on, like, get you specifically prepared so there's no guesswork involved in terms of setting up a system. Because I think the biggest piece that most parents have to overcome is thinking, well, where do I start? How do I? They don't want to. It's like, depending on the bandwidth of anything that's going on for any parent these days, there's so many things that are competing priorities. So this program really just breaks it down so that it takes out all the thinking. It's a great specific guide on how to get you set up, how to get you and your kids set up to implement this system, and that in which she grew to absolutely love. And then by the time she moved out, she never questioned to set money aside. Never. It wasn't a chore. It was already habit. And that's what we want to create. We're really aiming right now, we're driving the program to really specifically deal with kids from the time that they really understand your sentences. They may not necessarily speak in full sentences, but you know, like all parents know whether their kids understand them or not. So it's like from that age all the way to, you know, before preteens. That's where our program is created for at this moment.
Mhm.
Once we've had a steady rollout of the program for you know, at least a year or so, we are looking to expand that program so that it's more like, you know, how do you to take the next steps, like how do you, you know, for parents who have like teens to
So when they
having,
start making their first income.
yeah, to when they first income and transitioning out of the home.
I'll just add personal anecdote, because I had the opportunity to read the draft of Cash
Yes.
Smart for Life. And first, I was really ticked off at you that you waited until my kids were like early 20s to do this. Thanks a lot for that. That was helpful. But I will say, my wife Sean and I, we actually took some of the concepts that you teach that are for preteens, but we actually applied them to our 20-something in college child, right?
Nice.
And you can see how it is such good learning. And it is like, in education, we talk about scaffolding, right? You have that support at the level that you're ready for it. It builds some
Yeah.
autonomy and some confidence. But we started implementing some of the concepts that you guys talk about in Cash Smart for Life. What I want to say is to the listeners is, when they say it is a step by step, like take your brain out of it, just follow the directions, 100%. It is so easy to follow and so easy to implement. You guys have done a phenomenal job in giving parents a tool in building financial literacy for their kids. Thank you. As someone who's already benefited in our family from the draft, thank you for doing the work.
Yeah. Well, you're so welcome. And I mean, yeah, we're just really excited to, I don't know, just share this journey with other parents and have other parents feel the way that I feel as a mom.
Mhm.
And you know, it's sort of like an unintended maybe consequence to doing the Cash Smart, like, you know, just implementing this program into my daughter's life is that um I don't like, especially because I only have my daughter, right? So, and half the time I always worry about future relationships that she'll get into. Like I worried when she was a teenager, not so much anymore because of how she is. But I don't have to worry now that my daughter will land in a toxic relationship where someone else tries to control her financially, right? And many women do, right? So I'm happy to say that this program, like if any of you women have ever experienced that before, which I have, like in my past relationships, it's like it's just such a relief to know that when you give this skill to your child, they won't end up in that situation, whether it's in like an intimate relationship or even in certain workplaces. I think some people just stay in their workplace for a long time and they may not even like their job, but they feel like they can't because they gotta pay the bills.
Yeah. Yeah. What a gift. I mean, imagine, I think a lot of parents who are listening right now, they want this for their kids, and you're the living example of what you guys have created together over your lifetime, and the confidence and independence that you have. I mean, you can just see it in your face. Now, part of that is you're Winnie's daughter, right? And Winnie exudes that, but you do. I mean, there's just a confidence in you. It's really fun to see. Yeah. So I'm curious in some of the logistics as we start to wind this down.
Okay.
Our listeners are going to want to know, how do they access this? Where do they access it? When can they access it? Is there a waiting list? You mentioned it's not quite ready. There's some logistical pieces. So where do they go and when can they access these things?
Yeah, so the piece that's not quite ready is just like the actual book. But that's just due to technicalities, but it's pretty much, it's just almost there.
Right.
But uh what if you're really interested, if you go onto cashsmartforlife.com, there is a way to book a success call with us.
Mhm.
And and that's just like time with both her and I on the phone or on webinar to ask us questions about the program, and then we ask you questions just to make sure that you're right fit for the program for this moment in time. And prior to getting on the success call, they'll be sent an introduction to the actual, like, more specifics around what the program is, and then they'll have a much better idea before the call whether this is a really good fit for them at this time. Because our next our one and only program left for 2023 is going to start on September 20th. And then it's for 8 weeks. So September 20th, 27th, October 4th, 11th, 17th, 25th, and then November 1st and 8th. Yeah, so I mean, I hope that isn't specific enough in the sense of, like, yeah, if you're really interested, go right on to Cash Smart for Life and then sign up for a success call with us, and then we'll get you started in terms of, like, what this program is really about, and then see if you can be in our session for the 20th of September.
So Winnie, I know what I love about you and your organization, and then I think we're very aligned in what we do here at Life Success Legacy is we're not pushy. We don't like the salesy stuff. We are about helping people. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the two of you is you're in this for the right reasons. You want to help parents who want these tools, right? So if they sign up for one of these success calls with you, you're not there to, like, sell them. You're there to make sure that it's a good fit for them and for you guys, that it really can be a productive, positive experience.
Yeah, we just want to make sure, like, sometimes it's so easy to get into a place of FOMO sometimes. Like, I mean, there is, of course, we're biased, like, in the sense of there is the earlier you can get started, of course, the better, right? But we also want to make sure that people that we're coaching are really ready for it. Is this the right timing? I don't see us going anywhere. This is something that is a passion project for us. We really do want to see as many families as possible experience what it is that we're experiencing. It just makes life so worth it to be here. I mean, so much has happened, in the last, I don't know, it happens throughout all of history, but I think so much has happened again since COVID. And I think it's really nice to be able to be in a place where we can, where we feel like we can give hope, to people.
Absolutely.
And we want to make sure people are in the right place in the right time to experience it. And so I think it's just really, like, just making sure that everyone who comes to our program feels like it's the right fit and the right time for them.
Okay. So they can go to cashsmartforlife.com, and if they can check it out. And if they want to schedule a success call with the two of you, they can do that. And then is there also a way for them to get on the waiting list, since the book's not quite ready? We're this close to it. Is there a way for them to get on the waiting list for that?
For the book, I think is what he means.
Yeah,
I think so. Right on, I think so. Right on the website, I think it says join.
It's a wait list for our program.
Oh no, we have to create a button for that then.
Oh, okay. So the book's not yet, but they can go ahead and start accessing the program and set up a success call with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I want to be very clear, because at the very beginning we said you're in Canada, right? And we're in the States. But Cash Smart for Life is not limited to Canada or the United States. Obviously, if people are utilizing IBC policy, like our clients, they're going to be coming to you with policies already in place. And just to be clear to people, we, Life Success Legacy, cannot set up policies for Canadians, and Winnie cannot set up policies for people in the States. We refer to each other. So we have people who join our podcast from Canada, and if they're interested, we always send them to Winnie, and vice versa, right? But that does not keep someone from being able to tap into this program and your coaching, even if they're in the States, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or even anywhere in the world. Like, I mean, it's basically the same that we're really discovering. It's just different currencies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
This has been so fun. I know we need to wrap this up, but I'm already thinking of future podcasts that I would love to do with the two of you, and maybe even individually. Emaghea. I would love to
Yeah.
just do some interviews with you, especially for young listeners,
Of
to hear
course.
your voice. That would be fantastic. So I hope you
Yeah.
guys would be open to future podcasts.
Mhm.
All
We
right.
are. Thank you so much for your
Any-
kindness for of us. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're 100% behind you. And we are, I'll speak on behalf of our listeners. We're grateful and have been waiting for this program. So thank you for all the hours and hours of work that has gone into creating this for parents out there.
Thank you. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Absolutely. Okay, to our listeners, you got to check this out. Head to cashsmartforlife.com and see what Winnie and Emaghea have put together for you. Check it out. They're great people. I can vouch for you on that. They will take great care of you. And there's a lot of wisdom to share and experience to share with you. As always, we recommend, if you have not read Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, that's the place to start for IBC. There it is. Please get a copy of that. And then we also have lots of other resources. And eventually, when Winnie and Emaghea's book is available, we're going to buy a bunch of those to have on our website as well. We want to push this content to you guys because it's an amazing tool. I still have, this is the draft of Cash Smart for Life that Winnie sent me. And it's a wonderful, wonderful tool that they put together for people. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to you joining us in our future podcast. Check us out at lifesuccesslegacy.com. Thank you.